Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me for another Tales from the Crypt review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 3, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, directed by Richard Donner and starring Joe Pantoliano as Ulrich. And I have to say, this is another solid episode. I feel like Tales from the Crypt is batting 3 for 3 so far. I do feel the episode might be slightly repetitive and over the top, but for the most part, it's very entertaining and it's very well acted as well. And I just think it's a very strong episode with a very interesting twist ending. And just a heads up, there will once again be some episode spoilers. So this episode starts with an interesting scene that gets our attention right away where Ulrich, our main character, is going to be lowered into a coffin, and he explains that he will die, but that eventually he will also be resurrected. So right away we are curious as to what's happening, and the rest of this episode will be narrated by Ulrich from the coffin, which is kind of interesting. It gives us his thoughts throughout the rest of the episode. So we go back to how this story started, and there is a doctor, and he explains to Ulrich he's going to take these glands out of a cat and put them in Ulrich's brain somehow, and this is supposed to theoretically give Ulrich 9 lives. It wasn't really explained that great in my opinion, but it's one of those things you got to just kind of go with, and I didn't really have a problem with it. So they do this experiment, but Ulrich's not sure if it worked or not, so the doctor shoots him, which does kill him, but he's immediately resurrected. I have to say pretty quickly, amazingly enough. So now we know that this concept works. So the doctor and Ulrich come up with this plan that they're going to go to this carnival show, and they're going to have people pay to watch Ulrich get killed and then resurrect, come back to life, and they'll make a ton of money and split the profits. I'm not sure that this is the way I would use this power, if you want to call it a power if I had it, but whatever, it makes for an interesting episode, I guess. So we actually then get to see a lot of these events take place throughout the episode. We start with a drowning act, which also introduces us to an assistant named Coralie, played by the actress Kathleen York, and she's amusing enough in most of her scenes, and she's important to the plot later on in the episode. And then we get another scene where Ulrich is hung, and I have to say these scenes work for the most part. They do come across as very campy, but I know the show was kind of going for that kind of satirical vibe. It works for the most part. I do think maybe towards the end of the episode we kind of get the point. There might be one too many of these scenes. Maybe some kind of montage would have been a better idea, but I guess they wanted us to see all these scenes play out to make the twist ending more effective. So it's fine, I guess. And also at this point, after a couple of these things happen, after the hanging, Ulrich decides he wants all the profits for himself. So him and the doctor are driving and talking, and he decides he's going to cause a car crash which will kill them both, except the doctor will stay dead, and Ulrich will come back because he still has quite a few lives left. This is when we start realizing that Ulrich is not using his powers for good, that's for sure. He's definitely got some less than great motives in mind here for the rest of the episode. So then we get to see a couple more of these scenes. We get to see Ulrich get electrocuted, and this one's pretty grisly and it's kind of amusing. This little elderly lady gets to assist with it. It's okay. And then we get one where he's shot with some arrows. Like I said, there's quite a few of these scenes, and they kind of start to just go on and on at this point. They don't really kill the momentum of the episode, but I do think that we definitely get the point as the audience what Tales from the Crypt is going for. But the scenes work well enough. So at this point, after all this is done and Ulrich is resurrected, Coralie actually betrays him. She stabs him and runs off with the money that he got from the last thing that happened. I think it was the arrow shooting scene. And I have to say, I wasn't so sure about her motives here. Sure, she gets all this money, Coralie, but couldn't she have made even more money sticking around for the last stunt? Thought this was kind of strange, but I guess it's necessary for further plot development purposes that Ulrich was killed by her here. So then we go back to the beginning of the episode. We're back in the present, and we find out Ulrich's one last stunt, which he's supposed to get 100% profits for, are him being lowered into the coffin, but he's not worried about it because he has 2 lives left. So when he loses this one, he'll still have 1 left, and he'll be rich. He'll have a lot of money. Now, I have to say, it might have been smart to have a backup plan and keep a few of these lives in reserve in case something happened. I'm just saying, because what happens now is when Ulrich starts thinking back about all the times he has passed away, He realizes he didn't count the very first time when the cat itself was killed, which counts as one life. So the twist is that this is Ulrich's last life while he's in the coffin, and I don't think he was quite as smart or as clever as he thought he was. So things are not going to end too well for Ulrich. And then we get a final scene with the Crypt Keeper, which is pretty amusing. So like I said, a very solid episode overall, and I give Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone a 4 out of 5. Definitely a classic episode for fans of the series to watch. I do think it was slightly repetitive and over the top in a few points, but overall it works very well, and I do think it's a tribute to the show that the ending worked as well as it did. It was able to get serious when it had to, despite its campy tone, and I give a lot of credit to the writer, the director, Richard Donner, and also Joe Pantoliano, who gives an excellent performance. So 4 out of 5 for Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, and as always, thank you very much for watching.